hardest battle you're going to face is the ones that love you the most are going to still think you're mad. And I don't mind that. That doesn't bother me anymore. But there's a slight part of me that goes, I want you to understand where I am. But I also know that not everyone down here on this soul's experience is destined to wake up. They have their individual life paths and they're doing what they're destined to do, consciously or subconsciously. If we look on a soul cellular level, you always work up to the point where you awaken. But I think there are probably crucial times through your life journey, like passages of rites, as they say in shamanism, where you have opportunities, but those opportunities may not necessarily serve you. But it's not until you have your awakening that you're able then to go inwards and reflect back and look deeper at those critical times. And I really understand that that wasn't the right time for you, but then it helps you further understand where you are now. I was trying to get as big as I can, run as fast as I can, to look like a god, right? Eating way too much, putting stuff in my body that wasn't serving me, but that was giving me external self-serving gratification for my ego. But there was also an insecurity of why I was doing it. And I'm not saying everyone that goes to gym is covering or masking an ego, an insecurity. I'm not, but very much for me, on my experience, it was let me hammer myself to a point of being poorly, I suppose, because it's non-constructive.
Today we welcome you back on to another episode of 108 Flow. Today we have Daniel Stewart on, Cosmic Commando 369, and he's here to share his experiences and his journey and delving into the life of being a shaman. So it's good to have you on.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been a good morning, hasn't it, so far?
Yeah, I feel like we've done most of the talking already.
And we said as well, weren't we? We're going to try not to do that, but the souls meet and they just connect, don't they?
What's supposed to be said is supposed to be said, isn't it? So
yeah,
what's going to go out there will hopefully land with the people that need to hear it, and hopefully spark some interest or open their mind to new possibilities.
Yeah.
So I wanted to begin with, when did the journey for you feel like it began? Was it before the army or?
No, I feel that if we look on a soul cellular level, you always work up to the point where you awaken. But I think there are probably crucial times through your life journey, like passages of rites, as they say in shamanism, where you have opportunities, but those opportunities may not necessarily serve you. But it's not until you have your awakening that you're able then to go inwards and reflect back and look deeper at those critical times. And I really understand that that wasn't the right time for you, but then it helps you further understand where you are now. But I think for me, it probably was the loss of my mother, which was quite traumatic for everyone that was involved. And it quite quickly snowballed. How do I go into it? I think there's a lot, when the soul awakens, there's a lot of deprogramming that has to go on, and that's when the real journey starts. And I think that journey is continuous. But for me, it was probably 2022.
Yeah.
And so we're early doors of 2025 now. And it has been just, like we said earlier, like a domino effect, but beautiful, perfectly imperfect, right?
Yeah.
Because it couldn't have been anything other than what it is.
No, definitely not.
So yeah, I mean, if I wanted to elaborate, my mother sadly passed away on Christmas Day in 2022.
Sorry to
with young Alzheimer's and dementia. And I got discharged from the Royal Marines with something called ulcer colitis.
All right.
Back in 2012. I was an aspiring wannabe mountain leader. That wasn't going to happen because of my stomach condition. And on a physical level, that's where your emotions are kept. It's that gut instinct. And what transpired was I obviously had trauma from my first tour of Afghanistan. That's when that happened. But I was in control of it. And then I feel that when I lost my mother, who was my life bearer, the one that brought me into this world, 2 weeks after going into hospital in the October, which when I was born in October, it was October the 16th she went into hospital. I then started bleeding out my back end. And for 2 years, that was uncontrollable.
Wow.
And ultimately, when my mother passed away at 4:30 on Christmas Day, that was, I think, that was the splitting of the atom, I suppose, of my awakening. There's a lot that goes in there, because my mother, when I went to see her, she was in a state of unease. She was on medication, but ultimately she was seeing things and not really knowing how to comfort my mother, but coming from quite a Christian background. My nan was a Spanish Roman Catholic, my other nan's Italian, and then I've got my another nan. But the whole family, both the O'Briens and the Stewarts, were quite religious. Oh. So to soothe my mother at the time, my Bible, which is over there, I just went and got the Bible and I started reading from the Bible. And I didn't really know what I was reading, but I was just trying to soothe my mother's soul and trying to get her to a state of peace. And I think that was acknowledging beyond the veil that we can't see. And that was my soul speaking to my mother's soul. And that sounds quite deep for people that aren't on our level, and that's fine. But when you have that urge to do something, the sooner you go with the flow of the universe and just go with it, the sooner the world opens up. And so I read the Bible to her. Anyway, my mother passed away on Christmas Day. And then for 2 years, I just bled and carried on working, being that alpha male that I'd always been through pre-programming of the Marines, through being a young adolescent and being a naughty child. Always having to be that overly alpha male, which doesn't really sit. If you sit too much in one polarity, you're masculine, you're feminine, you're out of balance. And it's about bringing yourself in line. But when you don't know how to do that, you just end up going further left or further right. And your body is a natural indicator. If something's going on, there's a reason. We spoke about this earlier, didn't we?
Something's out of whack, isn't it?
Something's out of whack. I had steroids. Well, we can go into it more, but is there anything further on that as such?
So when you were bleeding from backside, that coincided straight after your mother passing?
Yeah, literally 2 weeks after I started bleeding, and it was small at the start, and then at the worst, it was I was going toilet 27 times a day, and when I was breaking wind, it was blood and mucus, and it was really. But I had a wife and 3 children, and so you always been told to suck it up, buttercup, and just crack on, and so your health becomes secondary, and to a point where my body went, you can't do this no more.
Do you think that were a blessing in disguise though, because it forced you to look at it in a deeper way?
Yeah.
Because if there wasn't that indication, it could just rot from the inside. So there's something there for you to work upon.
Yeah, 100%. It was an absolute blessing in disguise. It was, but you have to get beyond the fear of the control. We as humans want to be in control of every aspect of our life, and actually we do have to surrender it sometimes, and or crucify yourself. You either crucify yourself constantly and get nowhere, or you surrender and you go inward and you acknowledge that actually I'm not very well at the moment, and I have got complex PTSD as well, and it's now stage 2 Crohn's. So that's very emotionally based responses, and that sits, and we talk about your chakras, your 7 chakras, your solar plexus chakra, right? Your gut instincts, where all your emotions sit. And if something's not right, it's your gut instinct, or it's coming out, but ultimately I had these steroids, didn't work, had a colonoscopy. Oh, it's a lot worse than we first thought. Started me on something called biological infusion therapy, which is like replacing the white blood cells in my large intestine effectively. And that kind of spiked like a chemical imbalance in my brain. And then the story beyond that is quite an erratic awakening, which we can go into.
Definitely. Definitely interested to expand upon that.
Yeah.
But how have you, has it all died down a bit now?
Yeah. So I was on biologics up until Christmas of 2023, and then the anniversary of my mate Ben Watley on Christmas Eve, who was in the Royal Marines on Herrick 9, passed away. that was a trigger Christmas Eve, or an experience. And then my mother's anniversary, Christmas Day, the medication stopped working. And there were other medical avenues to go down. But at that point, it was like my soul was speaking to me. And I'd come off medication that I was on for my PTSD. And I'd went from being what I'd call like a sleeping zombie to being so emotionally available that I was probably a little bit out of control, you know? But I spoke to my dietitian and I was like, I want to do this more holistically. And the only way I'm going to do that is by investing time. And so there's a transition, obviously, with hospital and mental health in between that, which I'll go into later. But then I just started on this endless pursuit of a more holistical approach to medicine, opposed to taking a tablet.
Yeah, instead of just numbing it.
And don't be wrong, I'm very blessed. I've had support from Combat Stress, the Royal Marines Charity, Rock to Recovery. I've been very much supported on my journey, but ultimately I didn't want. So I think therapy and medication, to a certain extent, whatever condition you're going through, is really, really good. But there has to be an exit strategy. And at my time, my soul was saying, you need to come off medication, you need to deal with your emotional baggage, and you need to put this to rest by going back to Mother Earth. And then quickly develop this shaman, druid, sage. We are all this down here. But we're just too fixated on fast-paced life that we've not slowed down enough to acknowledge the endless, infinite power we have in ourselves.
So when did this come about? Like you going talking about druids and spirituality. Have you ever, other than your parents and family being in with the church, have you ever had your eyes open to something more than that?
Not particularly, if I'm being honest. I think plant medicine certainly sped up that awakening. But what came from guides was actually, you have to know where you come from to be able to step into your power. And I'm a massive advocate of finding out about your ancestral lineage, whether you're going to go as loose as me, being a former Royal Marines Commando and understanding all the brothers and sisters that have gone before us, that have paved the way for us to walk where we are now and sacrificed their life through all the big conflicts that have gone on, or you look more deeply at your bloodlines. And you've got so much available information online now and through the power of books. Instead, I always say this, instead of picking up a Netflix and some sweets and chocolate, take that time to get to know thyself, like Jesus Christ said, right? And when you understand yourself, Hare Krishna spoke about it, the Buddha, all these ascended masters in this 3D realm spoke of this ascending and going inward to understand where you come from, to step in your power moving forward. But until I had this trauma crisis with my health, I was just the same as everybody else, just one-dimensional.
Stuck with blinkers on. And I think, for me personally as well, it resonates with me. And a lot of people are scared of plant medicine. I'm not saying for everyone to take it, but I definitely think once you've gone to so far of these blinkers on and you're so heavily programmed, it's the thing that dissolves these blinkers. And it starts to open up your mind, like the lotus flower. I know the Egyptians, they're very much to refer to it. It's because it's opening of the mind. It's starting to see other possibilities. And we're starting to then see these patterns that we're living in. It needs that. It's like a bump start for a car that's just broken.
It is very much that. So again, like I say, I've been supported quite heavily. I've done 3, if not 4 years of therapy for my PTSD or complex PTSD. And I've done that like a week and a half course. I think it was Durham University that done the course, and it was a Stephen Peters, The Pathway Through the Jungle, the chimp mind model. So when you begin to understand the dynamics, but ultimately without sounding like I'm projecting what I think everyone else thinks, I feel from my experience that actually you can have all the therapy in the world, but unless you're mindful enough to implement the tools you're given, and I feel from my experience that I'd had all this therapy, EMDR as well, and I hadn't actually implemented all the stuff that I'd been taught. And I think a lot of us do this. We go through the motions, But it's not until we become omnipresent and we then start going, actually, use this, and this. It can be really, really helpful. But ultimately, I still came out the other side of all this treatment that I'd had, thinking that I was broken, I was this, I was that, I was not worthy. And I'd come to the conclusion that I was broke like this forever. And I'm not saying that I don't struggle still. I think that would be very naive of me to say.
Yeah.
But I only struggle when I lose control. And so, again, it's all about being in control. And I don't mean that in an overbearing way. It's being in control of your urges, of what you know are your dark energies, your demons, however you want to dress it up, whatever makes you feel vulnerable. It's understanding and sitting with those and changing how you view them. My friend who's a Buddha, he'd say that actually you can't ever expel your demons. It's actually best to sit with them and talk and nurture. Now, I don't like using the word demons, but I just the things
The darker thoughts that we all get. We all get them.
We've all got it. We are light and dark, aren't we? We are duality. And I just feel my soul from a video. I watched a documentary, I think it was HBO, and it was some US Marines, and they were doing ayahuasca or peyote, and they had some really profound experiences, and I just know that really resonated with my soul. I didn't know at the time that that was going to transcend to 4 or 5 years down the line and take that journey myself. And you will know when you're ready.
Yeah.
We talk about this. The ego will tell you to jump in, whatever you choose. But plant medicine, like all medicines, needs to be respected. And when it's respected and you set good intentions and you give gratitude and you honor and you're mindful, it's far different than going down the pub on a Friday night and getting 3-4 beers in and then ringing your mate up for the obvious. There are no intentions other than disconnecting from the reality you no longer want to serve in because you're stressed, because you don't know how to manage what you're going through. And we said to us earlier, didn't we?
Yeah, and you're not just doing it for shits and giggles. You're doing it with intention to be better. And I've used this example before. It's like, when I was taking cocaine, and I was thinking about me, like what Pete's gonna have after, chasing stuff that I shouldn't be chasing. When I was taking magic mushrooms and I was taking them with intention, I was coming out with business plans and I've got ideas to how to change the world better.
Yeah.
But everyone's misconception is they all go, "You're off your nut." I'm like, am I off? Are people off the nut going off plant medicine? Yeah, there is people abuse it. There's always going to be.
Yeah.
But on the big scale of it, is the reconnecting and the reconnecting with this world don't fit the bill anymore. No. And I think that's what everyone's starting to see is no one feels quite well. No one looks quite well when you walk around a shopping mall or whatever. I even said to Zoe, we went shopping the other day and I went, just look around. I don't want to see that it's my lens. Just look around and tell me if you see people moving with disease, their heads down, all these triggers that like you can. Like I was saying, not judging but observing. And once you observe, you're like, you could help these people. And this is where we spoke earlier, is where it's about time we step into this power of building this new world, building new possibilities, new communities. And then it gives people, they don't have to take the plant medicines.
No.
They can see what you're building.
Yeah.
It's about putting the foundations down for a new world. That paradigm shift, complete paradigm shift.
It is a paradigm shift. And it's good you said that because I think we've got to understand that. I think for me, it's been a massive, drastic change. You've got like to share. I was a juicer, not juicer, but I was a juice, not juice. No, I was training hard. You know, I used to be at the gym at 4:30 in the morning. I was trying to get as big as I can, run as fast as I can, to look like a god. Right, eating way too much, putting stuff in my body that wasn't serving me, but it was giving me external, self-serving gratification for my ego. But there was also an insecurity of why I was doing it. And I'm not saying everyone that goes to gym is covering or masking an ego, an insecurity. I'm not, but very much for me, on my experience, it was let me hammer myself to a point of being poorly, I suppose, because it's non-constructive. And then going back to what you say about looking around, like I used to be known as lethal, you know, that as a 38 going on 39-year-old man with 3 children and a wife, That's not a good label. And what was that drawn out of? That it talks like we're a multi-dimensional human being. So when you meet someone, there's that first impression. No matter how much we judge or try not to judge, there will always be a lasting first impression. So imagine there's 8 billion people in this world, and say you've met a fraction of those. Every single one of them will have a unique viewpoint on who you are. And ultimately, it's returning to a place like Jesus Christ when he walked this earth, that you are so open and unjudgmental and just showing unconditional love. And actually, when you can see it through a lens of unconditional love and not look at him looking like that or look at her and judging, by judging them, you're judging yourself. And so instead of looking at them and passing judgment, how about you look inward and what's causing you to make that judgment? Yeah. But ultimately, when you analyze the general civilization right now, the lights of their eyes, where it says in the Bible, Luke, the light of the eye, the soul, the lamp, is a true indication of how people are. And a lot of people are disheartened.
It's beautiful that you said that as well. So I just watched, I went to a meditation the other week, but he's just posted, did Gen of Leeds, Canberra. He said they were walking through Leeds Market and he said, when we're starting to judge other people, whether they're homeless or they're dressed differently, the easiest way that Buddha put it is just picture them as a loved one.
Yeah.
And they'll very quickly dissolve that any judgment that you have of everyone is your brother and sister. Yeah. It's only these borders that are put up. And I think I watched the video of a day and it was similar of dividing. It was showing ants on a piece of paper and they were putting lines around them. And the ants, it's not a physical wall, it's just a line. And all these ants are not getting out. Obviously, they don't go out beyond the line. And then it just turned over to map world and showed all different lines. And it's like, we're no different.
No,
We've been told that there's lines that we can't cross. And it's all bollocks. It's like, who is it to say that we can't go to these places?
We are unlimited, aren't we? But we are kept in a low state of fear. And it's some of the deep topic, but we are all sitting, and let's be quite frank, my journey of awakening has been really, really traumatic for the people that I love the most. I'm not here preaching by any stretch of the imagination, because for the people that don't understand in the 3D world that we live in, what I've gone through being sectioned, which I was sectioned for 28 days. I had a standoff with the police for whatever reason. They dealt with the situation very, very well. But through the lens of people viewing that one-dimensionally, I've cracked up on crackers.
Yeah.
And you'd hear all sorts of whispers of, Lethal, he's changed himself to beacon of hope, love, joy and peace. He's now Cosmic Commando 369. He's lost the plot. And they're entitled...
What is the plot though? I put a video out of this when I first started doing it, and they went, "He's lost plot," and I'm like, "What is the plot?" Like like I just said, with watching Society and they look sick and down and ill, the plot's not working.
No.
So you need to lose the plot and pave a new way.
Yeah.
For it to work.
Yeah, and that leads me on to, so when I went on to this holistical back to Mother Earth, just druid, sage, shaman, salmon, which you have to unpack so people understand, because when I say I'm a shaman, everyone is a shaman, your own individual shaman. And so if you look on my Instagram, I come across as the wounded healer, and there are a lot of people in this world that can transmute their dark energy into light work and help people understand that it's okay not to be okay. And that's the path that I walk now, that actually the old paradigm of who I was 16 and a half stone, 19-inch arms, top off, tats out, massive ego, alpha. Now I'm down to like 30. I put a bit of weight on over Christmas. My wife's fed me quite well. But I was down to 33.
Back up here.
But I'm happy, right? And when you're happy, you eat out of control because you're comfortable, right? And I wouldn't change it. But now I have a resting heart rate of 44 beats per minute. As long as I stay in control of my low energies, which is drink and drugs, if we're being quite frank. Yeah. As long as I keep control of that, I'm in a good place. And what's happened is my abs, my obliques out, but do I look like what everyone remembers me as? No. Am I talking a different language, or am I talking a language that you speak, but you don't understand me? Because instead of going home on an evening time when my wife left, or I was darting all around the UK, tracking ley lines and Neolithic sites and portals to the sky realm and Mother Earth. You don't understand that, but it doesn't mean what I'm doing is wrong, because actually I sleep quite well now. And from a guy that's got complex PTSD, that's had 12 years of 3 to 4 hours worth of sleep, now I'm getting 7, 8, 9 hours. Like
this is what we were talking about earlier, of the barometer of what wealth is. It's not money and material stuff. It's how well you sleep at night.
it is, and that's what everyone is chasing. That sleepless, that sleeping, that wonderful night's sleep and waking up. So I like to talk spiritually. This 5D ascension, that it starts by knowing thyself, like Jesus Christ said, and it's going inwards. But like I say to people in the morning, like I give this out for free because I think everyone should know it. Wake up in the morning, and if you've had a bad day, try not, when you go to bed at night, your mind, before it slips into subconsciousness and goes into sleep, is so malleable. Allow yourself to forgive yourself and release the bad energy of today and go, it's okay. My wife's really good at it. Like, she's had a bad day, she'll go to sleep. And I say she's my sleeping angel on a cloud. She's able to sleep it away and she'll wake up bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Not everyone can do it so easily through their experience through life. And I really struggled. So I now spend a lot of time before I go to bed laying there with high frequency music on, releasing anything that doesn't serve me.
Yeah, the journaling's really
Journaling's
really well for that.
Journaling, I like to do journaling in the morning.
Yeah.
I am intermittent at it, to be fair. But then when I wake up in the morning, I have a few affirmations, which is, I am one with the Creator is one with all. And I repeat that over and over. And I'm like, I am perfectly imperfect. And like, slow is smooth. Today is going to be a good day. Like
Snoop Dogg did a song of that. It were a children's song. And today's going to be a good day. And I used to play it for Archie, and it were affirmations.
And it is.
And he loved it. And but these, I know there's going to be people maybe watching or listening and going, these two are off the nut.
Yeah.
But if your life isn't working right now, be open to something new. Try something new. Try it for a week and then go, all right, they're not nuts, there's something here. Or you might then go, oh, it hasn't worked. That ain't for me.
Yeah.
That's fair enough. But to just, this is where people are just having judgment with putting no action in.
Yeah.
And when you're never going to change.
Yeah, you're not right. And we said about this again earlier, you reap what you sow. Jesus Christ spoke in parables all the time. And I love resorting back to Jesus Christ. And I'll go into it more. We have to understand that before Christianity, Jesus Christ walked this earth. There is an avatar. We can ascend into Christ consciousness. But ultimately, without losing my train of thought, I'd ask the people that know me and know you to see how different we are and question how they see and why they're passing judgment, because actually you may not understand it, but if your soul is giving you an emotional based response of, I don't know, laughing or making you feel uncomfortable, that is your higher self going, instead of mocking, ask a question and step through the doors. I say it all the time, get comfortable being uncomfortable, because that in the Marines is where you have growth, spiritually, physically, mentally, emotionally, financially. It's multi-dimensional. But unless you're willing to question or open the door and walk across that threshold and be like, could you just tell me what's going, just a little bit of understanding, be open to something that you don't know nothing about, because it is that step into the great unknown. And once you take 1 foot, baby steps, it could change your world. I'm not saying it will, but you have to want to know and acknowledge that you may be mocking us. You may be saying, oh, he's done too many mushrooms. He's lost the plot. The proof's in the pudding. Like I don't watch conventional TV. Yeah. I pick up a book. I self-educate. I've done a neuralistic linguistic practitioner's course, a breathwork course.
What is that, the linguistic?
So all it is it's all about the power of the mind.
Yeah.
We have to understand that through years, if we're being honest, centuries of pre-programming, and we need to look back at our parents and go, what they did was done out of unconditional love, and they could have done nothing better or worse. That was the best they could.
Yeah.
But that's not to say, or things you've been, that's not to say that it hasn't created these negative feedback loops in your brain through how you were interacted with as a child, through the experiences you've gone through. But it's about acknowledging that, taking those experiences that give you these negative feedback loops, which is a massive thing.
Oh, yeah.
And then taking your perspective from a child's perspective and acknowledging it from an adult, and just acknowledging that you can sit and go, they didn't do this, they didn't do that, my life was like this, my life was like that, and that was because of you, and you. It could have never been any different, but it's about expanding your consciousness and going, but they did the best they could, and what you went through, and I don't like to say this lightly, because some of us have been through some really bad times, and if I'd say, well, it was meant to be, that's going to trigger you.
But where your triggers are is where you've got to learn from as well.
You've got to learn from. But
it's a loaded gun, isn't it? Within inside you.
It is, but effectively you have to acknowledge that this pre-program, these loops you have in your mind, you can reprogram the brain, and it's far simpler than you'd acknowledge it to be. But until you stop engaging with all the social narratives that are being given to you and become the critical thinker and think outside that box, you will be kept in a cycle. And our soul is eternal. I believe that in my heart.
Yeah, I do, yeah.
And cycles are good, but not if they're not serving you anymore.
Well, what's saying to me, and they were on about saying the father that you are today will live on past your body. And I understand that. It really dropped in, and understanding what the meant is, if you understand that you picked up so many attributes and characteristics from your parents, you're going to pass it down. And my son, you already watched how your children are with you. They're already picking stuff up so quick, and they're becoming you.
Yeah.
People say all the time, you're just like your mum, or I didn't realise you were like, you're so much like your dad. It's because you've been around it. So even when we pass on, if we haven't broke this line of ancestral code, our consciousness is going to live through as sons and their kids' kids.
And it's karmatic debt ultimately, isn't it? You know, and this is something I really struggled with, because my wife is all love and light, and she's had a great childhood, and I kept looking at her and going, but you need healing. But actually it was me that needed the healing, and I was trying to heal her, but it was me that needed the healing. And then I got to that acknowledgement. I was looking at my children and how they were reacting, and I was like, that was me. And then that's like my mum. And actually, that's probably gone generation. And my biggest fear was losing my wife and children through not breaking this karmatic debt. And I've lost them and I've regained them, and it's all working out quite well at the moment. But ultimately, your children are a mirror reflection of you, and until you acknowledge that you're a product of your environment, and like my children are golden, but there's a lot of traits I look at them now and I think, wow, now I'm in this position of this higher self. And a lot of people transition into a higher self but don't even acknowledge it, and they just walk on through life. But for some of us, we don't. It's a struggle. Once you acknowledge that, you have the opportunity to correct that. And that has to be your life purpose. I said to you earlier, I spent a year and a half traveling the length of Great Britain, trying to save the world in my spiritual battle. And actually,
you were trying to save yourself.
I was trying to save myself, and beyond, once I'd saved myself, I needed to look closer to home, which was my wife and children, and that's who I needed to save and protect. And then once I'd understood that, I could then speak more calmly and fluently and more relaxed, because my soul was at ease, because I'd acknowledged that actually ego was wanting me to save the world on a one-man mission, going around my battle. But I said it wasn't about that. It was about closer to home.
Yeah. And it's that connect, like we were speaking earlier. It's about connecting with people on the same path. Now we've got we wanted to wake everyone up, and it's not about waking everyone up that way. Not everyone's going to wake up the same ways that we woke up in, and that's fine. But it's time to build something that they can relate to, where they don't have to do certain things. There is going to be doors that they've got to walk through. They don't want to, because let's be honest, you've done Cambo, I've done Cambo. I didn't particularly want to do it. It was in a meditation. I went to a breathwork meditation, and the frog came up in the vision at the end of it. Really? He came up, and I knew what it was, because one of the lads had just done it, and his face came really bad out. So I said to Zoe, and Zoe, who sat next to me, and I went, I've got to do a Cambo. And she went, why? And I went, I've seen a vision. I'm like, I don't really want it. And she went, yeah, but that looked really bad. And I'm like, yeah, it's not something that I really want to do, but I've got to do. And I got a lot of good stuff from it.
Yeah, I think Cambo's phenomenal, but like it is not for the faint-hearted. It really, really isn't. But the lady I'd done it with was a lady called Lisa, beautiful lady, just outside of Bristol. But again, I had the guides guiding me and saying, you need to go to Peru, you need to go to Thailand. And actually, we talked about it. There's a lot more available now in this day and age, closer to home. And so, once you get a feel, if you're comfortable, surrender to the medicine and step through those doors, it can be truly life changing.
Do you also though feel that I've got a calling to go to Peru? Not at this moment in time, but I definitely want to climb Machu Picchu. I've always been drawn to it, and before I got on this journey, I want to do ayahuasca there. There'll come a time and a place. So what's your take on light codes? And because it's like when you first hear something and people going light codes and it's activating, you going here and like, oh, the bollocks that is. But the more that I've realised, it's opening your ancestral line on the light codes within you and your DNA. It's activating it because it's only, if you think we're just living on a grid.
Yeah.
When you're walking over me, it is activating it through your torus field. It's coming up and through.
You are a beacon.
Yeah.
You are a beacon to the realms of reality you can't see. Like that's why my name was, when I went into hospital and I set up my social media channel, I was beacon of hope, love, joy, and peace. Now, that is nothing like the alpha I was before I went into hospital that everyone knew me as. And then beacon. Well, what's beacon? Well, you've got the Tavistock beacon mask, and then hope, love, joy, and peace. Well, they're just loving words, aren't they? Well, where does that come from? And quite quickly, what we were just speaking then is, I've been blessed. I've traveled 45 countries around this world. And I think I feel by sharing, by just being present enough to acknowledge that if we are on this ball floating in space, that actually space isn't external to us. We are in space. And then beyond that, light codes, I feel that once you've raised your vibration or are able to adjust your vibrational frequency, codes come from where I've been doing ley line hunting. And people
that I'm very interested in, these ley lines.
So like people are like, oh, what are ley lines? And I'm like, well, the only ley line that I've been working with is the St. Michael and Rose line. And if I can elaborate on that, this world is the world, the powers have built up latitude and longitude, and they are the grid system that we look to navigate around this world, the celestial body. But actually, we go back to paganism before Christianity hit our shores, and all around the world, there was a more innate connection to Mother Earth, and a pagan is a steward of the land. I am a steward. My bloodline is 16th century treasures of the King of Scotland, direct bloodline traced back to the first King of Scotland. And then my other bloodline is the O'Briens, which were a 10th century dynasty in the Southern Ireland, controlling the 6 southern states. And if you begin to understand and take yourself out of this body and into your astro body and transcend through astro travel, you can go to these multiple timelines and begin to understand that the archetypes that we talk about, back in the olden days, we would have been the Merlins, the witches and the wizards of these worlds. And the alchemy we're talking about, it isn't Expecto Patronus, Harry Potter, but though there's some hidden allegory in there.
Yeah.
It's actually, the magic is in the beauty of our eyes and going back to Mother Earth and realizing that plant medicine, or
there's nothing separate.
There's nothing separate. And we want to go on a scientific level. We're made up of 50 trillion individual atoms, right? And everything that you know to be real in the reality that you are lit, this 3D realm, is made up of those atoms. Yeah. And then we can go on to seamless string theory. But anyway, ley lines are Mother Earth, if you would acknowledge that Mother Earth is a living, breathing entity within the solar system.
Yeah. York Minster's actually, most colossal sites are out there.
Yeah. So when I had my awakening, and I've been to a lot of churches. This is what I did. I went to all walks of churches, different religions and texts, to try and get some clarification of what happened to me, because I took my van and I went on to Dartmoor. I took my top off, took my shoes off. I was in 5-inch Patagonia Strider shorts with my dog, my therapy dog Rupert, my space dog. I would call him something else, but I won't go. But yeah, you can read him in space.
Doesn't involve peanut butter, does it?
And we went running, and I went back to Mother Earth, and I was crawling through bushes and swimming through rivers, and part of you would go, the pre-programming, this is what they said, the many vicars I spoke to, the same messages coming through is you were very lucky that you were a former Royal Marines Commando, because what it culminated to was these guides saying, throw your dog off this cliff. And my mind went, that's my boy, like, he's been with me in the darkest of days, on sleepless nights, I'm not doing that. So he's set up on the bank, it's 2 cliffs, it's only about 18 foot high. They do it on that Special Forces program, where you jump backwards.
Oh, yeah.
Right into the water. And I'd spent my life at 4-2 Commando, and we used to run down, you have to go the biggest stone. If you'd been bad, you'd be sent down to 2 cliffs, pick up the biggest stone, and then run up Slate Hill and the Killer Hill. And so I'd always jumped in the water face forward. But I suppose the fear was, for me, was trusting this journey of this awakening. And I threw myself backwards, and there was a couple cyclists there. And I believe that was my first sacrifice to Mother Earth. Dartmoor is my playground. And if you look on my profile, I went off on a massive one, pushing myself to the outer limits of getting comfortable, being uncomfortable across Dartmoor. So that was my first sacrifice to Mother Earth as such. And I got back in my van and I was sound, went back, everything was good as such, so I can go on to that later. But then my next sacrifice on the ley line was the St Michael and Rose line again, but it was at Stonehenge. I'd spent the day, I left Plymouth, I went to Glastonbury, which for those who don't know, Glastonbury is the heart chakra of the world. The reason it's that is because glass under berry is glass under hill. We have quartz, which is what I've got here. This is a Lemurian quartz from a cave in Brazil. These lines are individual light codes, they'd say. But quartz is the highest vibrational frequency object on the planet. So that would resonate to some people of why Glastonbury is the heart chakra of the world. I left Glastonbury and went to Kent, to the Holy Trinity Church, where the guy, Revival Church, Tommy It's Okay Not to Be Okay on Facebook, went and met him. He's also on the fasting awakening journey, very Christian led. But it wasn't really resonating with my soul. So I left and I went to a place called Godstone, which is on a line. But I left there, I went to Tesco's, got some milk, some gold milk, some bread, and some apple juice. And I continued to drive to Stonehenge. And then my soul said, stop here. And I didn't know what I was doing, but I was working with a lady. I say working, I was a part of this video conference group called the Theo, which is Marcus and Sheila Gillette in America, that channel the Divine Council, which are the overlords of the earth.
Yeah.
And at the time, I didn't know what I was doing. But ultimately, I had this on live. I was sat eating a bit of bread, a bit of apple juice, and I was looking up at the stars, and I was like, if I'm ever going to get transported away by a UFO, it's going to be here, right, at Stonehenge. And I've got the video going on a conference call, and the line that runs through there, through Glastonbury and all the way through, is St Michael and Rose. I had this overwhelming urge to just take my clothes off and stand on top of the rocks. And so I did it. But as a Druid, there's a misconception that they used to give offerings and slaughter and sacrifice things and people. I don't know if that's true in my reality, in my experience. What I did was sacrifice myself to the sky gods, developing that connection to the sky and Mother Earth. It was blinking cold. It was the 16th of January. I had my clothes back on in a whip. And then I looked out, and it sounds bonkers, but me and my wife have shared the same experience, younger, looking up at these stars, and one started moving. And I'm a massive advocate of the stars. We come from stars. We're made of stardust. And so I got my stellarium map out, and it was Arcturus. And whether you choose to acknowledge this or not, it was like a telepathy, and it was like downloads. And they were saying, like, this is your journey, this is where you're going. And the bonkers thing about it is unless you've experienced this,
You're not the only person to say it. I've had a friend who were on about the same thing the other day.
Really?
And then I've also that Saint John Julian, that he says same thing when he was sat outside with Mrs. and they came down. And he's like, there's no way. He's like, we won't on anything. I haven't
No.
experienced it. I've experienced when being on plant medicine's a deep calling to go outside, but then so much tried stopping me. So
yeah,
I've
not ready
kept
for
it
you right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but going back, obviously sticking with the ley lines, that if you understand and you walk barefoot on ley lines, that the church I go, so carry on back to that. I then drove home and I got to a place called Ashburton, which is in a Devon, and I've been driving for about 15 hours with minimal breaks. I actually fell asleep behind the wheel.
Wow.
And hit the central reservation. Woke up to hitting the central reservation. I've got a lovely scratch down the side of my T5, a battle bus, and a blessing in disguise. I woke up, steered away. I pulled over, got my head torch out, done a 360 of the vehicle, and got my head down. I woke up, and it's indescribable. I'm massively colourblind on the Hishiara scale, but when I opened up my van door, the world just seemed brighter.
Yeah.
And at that point, I knew something had shifted, but I didn't really know what that shift was. And then pursued this energy of just trying to find out some kind of clarity. But I work a lot at Brentor, which is St Michael's Church. It's an 11th century church sat on a tor on Dartmoor, the other side of Tavistock. Me and my wife go out there quite a lot. I read from the Bible. And if I am right in what I say, and we are projecting to the multiple realms of existence that not everyone can see beyond the veil, what you say in your mind is very important because it's a frequency. And it goes back to atoms. If everything is frequency, which we know it to be through the basic understanding of physics from school, the power of the mind or the brain is phenomenal.
I just wanted to know your take on this, because it's something I do. I do some praying, not all the time. I should do more. But they were saying when you pray outside by the tongue, when you're saying it to God or whatever you do, the divine, you to pray in silence. And I've even seen a scene say this, because when you speak it within this realm, this is like the lower energies realm is this. Once it's released, they know the plan, because it's for you to have that conversation with the divine. Just you.
Yeah.
What's your take on that?
What is my take on that? It's duality. This is very much a three-dimensional realm. There are low energies around. We know this, to what extent I'm yet to uncover. But Jesus Christ said it, wasn't it? Don't be like the Pharisee on the street corner, projecting your fake truths, praying externally for everyone to hear. Don't look for gratification from the external. Do it in a quiet room with the door closed. That's what Jesus Christ said, right? Yeah. And he was in a scene. And we, again, without going down the Roman Catholic Church, because I am a Christian, but we have to understand that Jesus Christ wasn't a Christian. He was in a scene. The Bible was cannibalized out of his way of walking this earth. Jesus Christ was a child of God like everyone is down here. He was a clairvoyant. He was a mystic. He went to the Buddhism temple. He joined the Silk Trail at 12 years old because he didn't want to get married off as an Essene would.
They said that his dad lived through him, didn't they?
Yeah. And then when he got called out of Egypt, what was he doing in Egypt, right? Because Moses was in Egypt as well, right?
Mystery school, wasn't it?
Mystery school, right? And we have to be open to what I'm saying may cause you to feel not agree, and it may make you feel uncomfortable. But instead of just completely discerning what I say and saying, "Oh, he's talking waffle," be that critical thinker. Don't turn down what I say. Go and look into what I say, and if you prove me wrong, then I'll hold my hands up because I only want to help.
I think once you've touched that veil, though, and you know them deeper depths of faith and things start bobbing up in your life, there's no one can tell me that this isn't a simulation, that this isn't the
school of Earth,
power
brother.
to it. And I like the one that they said the other day. Is like, if you've dropped Jesus in Hogwarts, what would he be? And I went, ordinary.
Yeah, it would be. It would be. It really, really would be.
You could change wine to water.
Yeah. They'd be steaming, wouldn't they? They'd be absolutely steaming everywhere. I'm not sure how to unpack that wine to water, but I think lastly on that ley line, if people want to look into ley lines, just please. So my ancestral lineage is my nan was from Gibraltar, and the cave of St Michael runs in the Rock of Gibraltar, and there is a ley line that directly leaves the Temple of Jerusalem, the Golden Temple, and it cuts across the Mediterranean through the Rock of Gibraltar, which notably is not only a massive thing in history for the Royal Marines, but it's a strategic part of land, and then that goes all the way across the Bay of Biscay, and then it hits St Michael's Man down in Penzance, and it still tapers off in the other side and goes into Ireland. You've got the Giant's Causeway, and there's a lot of talk with Celtic mythology. There's a reason all these stories interlock if you look at them and take a piece of everything. But then that same ley line I was talking about then runs all the way across across England, and they call it the Sword of Light, and this is a Lemurian quartz. And if you understand that you as a spiritually awoken individual can go to these ley lines, is what I do as a practicing druid. I think a druid's easier for people in the United Kingdom to understand because they have a more resonance on it. I take my shamanic drum. I've got my maracas that I got from the Caribbean because me and my wife got married in the Caribbean.
Oh, cool.
And I put my high frequency music on, and I walk these ley lines barefooted. Now, from the external, I look slightly potty because I'm doing something that will make you feel uncomfortable. But the majority of people, if you don't take it defensively and you return with, oh, I'm absolutely fine. Do you want to know? See if they want to engage. If they want to engage, you have an opportunity to connect to the divine. And you have to understand that we are all sparks of divinity, a spark of God. And we can transmute messages to the multi-realms of reality. But it's understanding that we're all beacons.
Yeah, but I know most people would look at, and I probably would have done it a few years ago and go, he's weird. But it's only culture. It's culture. And when people say it's a cult, it's just a short word for culture. And that's what's getting dissolved around the world at the moment, is culture.
Yeah.
We're getting so mixed and diluted that people are losing the essence of what it is to be from England. It's now, if you say, what's a British person, it'd be like, it'd be pints, but it'd be like pints. Cups of tea and moan about the weather. Party animal. But that's what I mean. This new culture's kind of took over and dissolving what it was to be British.
Yeah. And again, as well, we have to, we talk about cycles of life, and I'm just trying to think what the book I was reading. But ultimately, we have to understand that people are looking at immigration being a problem, this, that, and the other. But the cycle of life, we're repeating history. Whether you talk about the slave trade, right? People of diverse ethnic backgrounds have always been coming and going to different shores because the human, the soul, doesn't recognize international borders, because Mother Earth is is Mesopotamia, it's Eden or Edom, right? So you're going, oh, we're Great Britain, and we are teas, coffees, creams, scones. Again, that is a culturally pre-programmed mindset that you've been, and it's division and separation. And COVID is another one. It is increased separation to a point where you don't talk to your neighbor. And I am that extrovert guy. I always have been, but I used to be angry with it. Now I am that guy that will sing at the top of the scaffold. I'll make an effort because I understand the importance of every person I speak to as a shaman, as a spiritual soul retriever, is an opportunity to speak to the divine and speak to them. For example, my daughter didn't get boba one Saturday and she was quite angry about it. And she wouldn't talk. She was like, it's not a problem, Daddy. But she was moody. And I was like, if it's not a problem, darling, smile. And she wouldn't smile. She wouldn't look at me. And so before, I'm like, you made your bed, lie in it. But instead I went, it doesn't mean nothing to me to take her into town now and get that. And so I said, look, boba does obviously mean something for you. We're going to go get it. And we parked outside of Plymouth Royal Parade. And I'd picked, sounds really, I dare say scabby is not the right word. I'd found a tent and a sleeping bag in a skip. I took it home, dried it, chucked it in the back of my transporter, and I had every intention of dropping it down to Shekinah Project, was where I went when I left the house because I was being spiritually crazy.
Yeah.
that didn't happen. But then I stood outside my van. The girls went to go get a boba with my boy and my two girls. And this guy walked past. My judgment, my alarm bells went, he's got a drug addiction. But then I went, haven't we all? We just choose to mask it and tell people what they want to be told. I said, hello, mate. I said, what's your name? What's on your back? It was a military burger. He said, my name's Daniel. I said, no way. I said, do you know what your name means? He went, no. I said, God is my judge. I said, I'm Daniel. And I said, by chance that we're here, it's by divinity we're most to meet. I was like, where are you off to, buddy? And he was like, I'm just going to the job centre so I can get a hotel for the night. Quite quickly came to the conclusion that he had been living in a shed for the last 8 days. And I think he said it had got down to 3 degrees.
Wow.
And I thought, wow, do you know what? Was that a reflection from the divine to me that that's how bad it could be if I lost control and I had to get control again? But more importantly, I saw it as an opportunity because I had that sleeping bag and that tent in the back. And I said, look, I've not got much in the way of money, but what I have got is a sleeping bag and a tent in the back. And he was like, oh, mate, to be honest, I've got a sleeping bag, but I could do with a tent. And I said, well, just hold on 2 secs. I went back of the van. I'd give him this tent. I said, I've got some extra pegs here. And I'd found that in the bin. And I'd been led there on a guided journey as such through just who I am.
Getting out of your own way, but seeing what you needed to pick up the tools to share.
And it was an opportunity to not only direct with a human, but the divine and to help someone. And that's what this world is all about. And that's happened on countless times now. I had a load of them in my head, and maybe they'll come to me in a bit. But it does, like for me, I think it goes back to my health scare. I knew I had to really switch, and I'd been 1,000 miles an hour. I was told that I was a very hyperactive child. Some call them star seeds, whatever you want to call it. I was a naughty child, and so my whole life was 1,000 miles an hour chasing the money. And once I slowed it down, I'd slowed it down so much, you got to see the beauty, and everywhere is an opportunity to help someone. And again, going back to Jesus, just know thyself and treat people how you want to be treated. And when you do, you soon quickly begin to see that there are opportunities for you everywhere. It's just what path are you going to choose? Yeah. And mine is just selfless, unconditional love where I can.
I love that.
Thank you.
I love that.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's changing the lens to know that you can bring it into everyday life. It's not about you. And I think that's what I'm trying to bring it in, and you're trying to say in that story. It's not about going and seeing energies. It's about getting out of your own way and looking at where you can help someone today. I mean, even I went walking dog this morning, and it's just why have we got into a society of you pass someone like school kids, and now we're just saying good morning, and they're like, look at you, because it's alien to them. And I find it mad that we should be in a society that we can pass, and no one's thinking, oh, he's a predator because he's what's his alter ego, what's his motive for saying that to me. And it should become the norm that we do greet each other, because we can see, I don't know for yourself, but I can body language on someone. If their head's down, they're in a dark place, and if that little conversation, you just saying good morning, it can light up the day into a new way of thinking.
Amen, brother. And I think for some of us, it's easier to read energy. And when people say, I read energy, they think, and you can, if you've ever read the Celestial Prophecy, you can adjust your lens of your eyes to pick up on the Taurus field. That's not something I've mastered yet. That's something I hope to. But the energy I'm talking about is the good and bad energy by someone's body language, right? Being the reader of people's facial expressions, how they hold their body posture, what they're dressed in, from their shoes, and just being open enough to go, do you know what? I've been in a dark place like that. I know what it's like, seeing yourself in them and going, good morning, mate. Or I like to say, grand rising. And they're like, grand rising? I'm like, well, good morning is to talk about mourning the death of someone the day after, so I don't like to talk about good morning. It's grand rising. Like, oh, that's different. And do you know what? That's a spark. they will remember me, and I don't want them to remember me from an ego perspective. I want them to go, Grand Rising. Well, that's
Where
a bit
does that come
different.
from? They might search it up, and
Yeah.
then they hear it again, and the synchronicities they'll hit home, and
Yeah.
you're putting them onto a different way of looking at stuff.
Yeah.
You're giving them a different set of lens to look at the world.
Yeah.
'Cause you're like, why did he say that? Why
Yeah.
did he say that?
Yeah, exactly. And it's triggering, isn't it? It's not triggering. It's just
In a good way.
In a good way. And again, like without reverting back to me, but me as the example.
No,
healing.
we're here to talk.
Yeah, I don't like to. I know, but it's the only way I can express from my perspective. I grew up in a village, right, in a sleepy village in West Coker outside of Yeovil, near Glastonbury. Some would call it Ye Old Evil. It's not a great place, but that was through the lens of a child. It's a beautiful place, but the village I grew up in had a butcher's, you had the post office, you had the local garage, a few local boozers. Everyone said hello. It was common, right? I moved to the big city. And then, like, I say big city, Ocean City, Plymouth. And, like,
Big to you.
yeah, big to me. Like, whoa, big skyscrapers. And I'm saying hello to people, and I just quickly realised that actually my openness was not accepted.
Yeah.
And it's a shame, and I'm not trying to change the world. And my dad said this to me once. He goes, "Son, you can't change the world." And the ego went, as when I was a young Marine, I was like, "Yeah, but I can, one person at a time." And now I go, I can change the world one person at a time, but not from that perspective. It's something as simple as a smile, a touch, a wave. Oh, I'll buy you a drink. These little things you talked about earlier, karmatic debt and how the cosmos knows. My lens was very self-loathing and very, what does the world owe me? When now, through all the people that have supported me, and I still have my dark days, through lack of control. It's how do I support everyone else on the smallest level?
Putting others above yourself.
Above yourself.
And I think what you said, the ego of you saying you can't change the world, I think that's a broken mindset of my dad's friend who said it to me when they were going through all this, and I went, it's all this and it's this and it's that and it's all this bad going on, and he went, the world is bad and you just get with it because it ain't changing, and that gave me the alchemy to go, sod you, that's your mindset, I'm not doing that. And I'm not saying I'm doing it by myself. That's why I'm having guests on like yourself and others who want change, and it's not about doing it alone individually, it's about building these communities together to do it. And that really spurred me on. I could have took that on and gone, the world is crap, and I'm going to take all these ideas and throw them in bin now. And it's not. It went, no, step into it. Step into the little things you can do per day. What I wanted to touch on as well, with being in the army and having an army background.
You have to call it the Marines, mate.
Marines,
there's a big difference. So sorry.
Sorry, no.
The army won't like that, but there is a difference.
I know this as well.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. In Marine life, I would just... What do you see with the changes that you've had, like PTSD, and you've obviously been with a lot of fellow Marines that have suffered same things. Do you see them being more open, using different modalities, so much as breath work or plant medicines? Do you see that getting introduced more and actually finding a way back rather than going on to the meds that pharmaceuticals do supply?
Well, this is my big dream. This is what, when I signed this unwritten contract in whatever realm you want to ascertain that I am in, am I healed on a physical level through what I've gone through, or am I spiritually awake? However you try to digest what I'm saying, my mindset every day is I want to bring plant medicine, I want to bring breath work, I want to bring critical thinking to crystals, the stuff that we've lost connection with. And I think there is a massive place in the world, the new world that I create in my mind every day. Yeah, like my world sees me building a shamanic retreat on Dartmoor, being the first thing in the southwest to blow up, supporting the lads that go through what I still go through, but I've got this awakening through plant medicine and through the support I've had, and share it And I know there's a place. I know there's a place for, dare I say it, and I say this lightly, all forms of what we call illegal drugs done within control. I'm not talking about everything, but we talk about LSD, DMT, ketamine, cannabis. When we look at all these drugs that have been pre-programmed to us as bad, they are bad because they're illegal, which is law by the government that controls or denotes what we do. But actually, what makes them bad is society has lost control. If we can regain the power of control and understand that moderation.
Yeah, and I think like you're saying is they're used in everyday party culture. They're not without intention. It is literally, let's get these to get off his head and have a good time. When people change the intention to, what can this, if I want it to help me.
How can it help me? And it goes back to our earlier conversation. When I saw that documentary on HBO with the US Marines and doing the peyote or the ayahuasca, that triggered something in me. And I've had a lot of support. And Pantheon is another one, and Smile Stars Charity. I've been very blessed with the support I've had. But there's a lot of lads and female service women that haven't had the level of support that I've had. And so I rest in the grace of Jesus Christ and go, I have an obligation to help people get to where I am. And again, I have dark days, but we have to revert back to why do I have dark days? And people have just lost control, and they're not delusional, they're deluded. They've lost the faith in their own ability.
Their own essence.
Their essence, and they've been told, they've been labelled. I've had so many labels placed upon me, and that's fine. But it doesn't define who I am. Who I am is a spark of God. I am perfectly imperfect. And everything I've gone through has led us to this moment right now where we're having this conversation, talking about trying to shape a new era, the age of Aquarius, right? We've lost that connection, and it's about delivering it to people on such a multi-dimensional level that it resonates somewhere. I said it outside, didn't we? Whether you're a witch, a wizard, a warlock, you're an elf, you're a superhero character, whatever you choose to resonate with that makes you happy in your soul, I want to talk to you about it.
Yeah, and whatever visions you get to see in your mind's eye of what you're drawn to, that is where your power lies.
Yeah.
But everyone's got to understand, in order for you to step into that power, you need to deprogram the things that are holding you back, the weights, these things that we've done wrong. I've got one at the moment, something I've admitted a lot of faults that I've done over time. I've had one that's kept on, I didn't even know, I forgot that I'd done it, and I'm not going to say what it is, but I've done someone wrong, and it's bobbed up in my mind this week, and it's like, I've got to go put that right.
Put it right.
And it's something I don't necessarily want to say.
No.
Well, even to the person and my fear mind's going, oh, what if they do this and what if it's, I've got to go, that is, for me personally, I've got to do that. But if you're listening to this, I'm sure it'll resonate and it'll drop in with you. You know what that one thing is that you've got to go tell that person that you did. Because energetically, that's accessing his light body. It's that weight that we've been carrying around with us, whether we know it or not. It's pushed down and it's holding us back.
That's the anchor.
From being to his highest self.
Yeah, that
and
is your anchor.
We've got to face his biggest insecurities.
You hit the nail on the head. I think the problem is once you get comfortable acknowledging that, for example, like you've done someone wrong, but you go, well, do you know what? He ain't nothing to me. It don't matter. Once you cross that threshold once, it's a negative feedback loop. You'll find yourself subconsciously doing it a lot more, and ultimately that is that dark energy in your soul, in your heart chakra, in your solar plexus chakra. You know it's wrong, and that's why it keeps resonating with you. You know, but you've just got so used to just not caring.
Yeah.
But at the root of it, you're gonna have to go inwards and go, I've done that wrong, I've done that wrong, I've done that wrong, and actually, dare I say, well, I say a tone. You need to clear the air. You know,
clear the karmatic debt.
Karmatic debt,
and
right?
People don't believe in it, but it does. It'll come back in another way and bite you in an ass, in some other way. The universe is nothing separate. It's always going to connect back, and that's the beautiful thing. As much as we fear what the outcome will be of facing that fear of actually owning your shit and sharing it, it's going to be something far more beautiful on the other side, because you are always rewarded for facing your fears.
Yes.
It's not the other way around.
Yeah, yeah. And I've got a big fear, and I don't like talking about it. And it stems from childhood, and a lot of people have gone through it. And my wife, she's like, oh, no one wants to know that. You're an oversharer. And I like to correct them now, and I don't say it triggeringly now. I'm like, I'm not an oversharer. What I am is I'm wearing my heart on the sleeve. Like Christ equals love. Like Jesus Christ is a massive advocate to him because he walks so selflessly. But understand that when I wear my heart on my sleeve and tell you my deepest, darkest secrets,
shows that it can be done.
Yeah, you may not resonate and open up back to me now, but it gives you food for thought. And I hope and pray that down the line, should you want to talk about your problems and you don't go to a professional, you just need someone to chew the fat with, you go, well, do you know what? Lethal, Cosmic, Daniel, Dan, Danny, whoever he chooses to be, the name tag is irrelevant. Actually, he was open enough to tell me some of his darkest secrets, and that's quite big, and I feel comfortable now sharing what's making me feel. And then hopefully I can then go signpost you there, or just give you comfort and be that person that when you look in a pub on a Friday night and you've got all these thoughts going in your head, and if you do talk about them, it's normally when you've had 8-9 pints and you're crying doing it, and then it's forgotten about and not talked about. You go, well, actually, I could give him a call, I could drop him a message. But as men, I think women are really good at talking about their problems. That's a divine feminine. Yeah. I'm a Yappuccino, but men don't talk. The biggest rate of death in men under 50 is suicide. I've been to Andy's Man Club. It's okay to talk.
Yeah.
But it comes from systemic programming from before World War One and Two, the stiff upper lip. Us blokes don't talk. And we do need to talk.
It really needs to come in as well quickly, because they're saying at the moment, they're saying like with body dysmorphia and all the rest of it, it were teenage girls that were starting to commit suicide. They said that this next wave is blokes because they're very proud in how they look and they're all trying to fit. You've seen what social media is doing to people.
Social media is good and bad, isn't it?
It is good and bad, but it's where you're focusing your attention. And if you're focusing your attention on your outer world and not healing the inner world, you're going to try and fix everything. You're going to try, like you said earlier, on the steroids and trying to mask everything. Yeah. And a lot of people are doing that. They do it out of clothes.
Yeah.
I'm better than you. And what they feel, I've done it before where I've bought certain items and you're like, I felt good for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And then after, just because you wear clothes better than other people don't make you a better person. And there's a massive empty feeling. And I know if you're listening to this and you've done this before, you know there's an empty feeling. Mm-hmm. The only thing that's going to bring you any fulfillment is actually working upon yourself and deprogramming these programs. It
is, you're right. And again, like my son's only 7, going on 8 in under 3 weeks. And he is the spit of me in how he is materialistic, and it's not from overexposure of us giving him everything. I don't feel, because he's very young.
Yeah,
it's actually inherently in my genes. And so, like, looking at him when I was younger, like my dad would tell you, and my mum, we used to have the Argos catalogue.
Yeah.
Christmas Eve was going, and I'm talking about my birthday and Easter. I'm flicking it, I'm folding pages. But now, my boy's got Amazon. So my basket and my wife's basket is full of items, and I try. Before, it used to really trigger me, and it used to make me angry because I suppose I was seeing my child version of it, and I didn't know how to react other than angry. But now my wife, and through what I've been through, I can look at him and I'm like, I sit him down and I'm like, you have to understand that all these external materialistic items, this item, this water book. He wants to be a Royal Marine like Daddy, right? Yeah, and that's beautiful. I don't want him to be, but his path will be where he goes. I was like, son, that's not going to make you happy. And we have to be willing to recycle, regurgitate over and over. It's not going to change overnight, but we have to get rid of these negative traits and looking for external self-satisfaction.
I think the answer to that at the moment, and because I've seen patterns with Archie, how he is with food. Like when he'll sit around, you know, like if you've got so many Yorkshire puddings left over, and he'll be, I'm getting annoyed. I'm like, because he's seen me go for the last one. But the way that I think we pull, not trying to manipulate it, but try to show them different creative aspects that they can fall into, because you're then opening their peripheral vision to go, that's something you are divinely guiding them to something, because they'll
Yeah.
go, I love that. It
Yeah,
might not be something that we even like.
No.
But the more that you take them to kids clubs or whatever it might be,
Yeah.
art or music, they'll fall into that, and they won't want to be what you was. And we can only share our story of what we've gone through, and then maybe things didn't make us feel whole.
And that's ultimately what it is, isn't it? It's what didn't make us feel whole, and then you just have to find like these areas to put the children, not push them, but allow them to walk through those doors and find themselves. We've been trying to push Freddie into football for quite some time, and he likes it, and then he doesn't like it.
That's hilarious, because he's just starting football and I don't want him to. He were doing gymnastics, and I know there's a stigma that goes with lads doing gymnastics. But he's disciplined and stuff, and I'd like if he sticks with that. And in fact, I said, Zoe, all he can do is a cartwheel. And she went, done that tell you everything, Craig? He's been doing it a year. And I'm like, you know what, you're right. I'm like, yeah, if he wants to go play football, again, it's made me drop into where my thoughts are. He's like, I don't want it to be like, that's what I want.
That's what you want.
And I can see which way it goes with stuff. And I'm like, no, it's actually good, because it's team building, and they get to meet friends, and they get to, as long as it's fun for them, it's not about how I look at it, it's about how he feels. And that's where I've had to step away and go,
step aside from you.
And then the universe will also put you into the path of other parents that are maybe you build new relationships, and that's what it's about.
It is. It really, really is. But it's just being consciously aware, like you just said there, that you have to step away or take yourself out and go, that all these thoughts I'm having about what I want for my son isn't for my son. It's what I don't want for him, but it's my thoughts, and actually it needs to be his thoughts. And so you need to try as many things as possible.
It's the awareness, isn't it? The awareness is the blessing, in it? Because 5 years ago I'd have been like, no, hell to fire, that's going on, I'm not having it any other way. Mate, and now you go, step out of your own way and go, let's just see how it unfolds. And that's all I can do is teach him.
Guidance, isn't it? It's guidance and teaching, and just love, unconditional love, brother. Unconditional love.
You were saying that you've been to Peru then?
I haven't.
Oh, you haven't?
So the last place I went was Gran Canaria. I'd done 3 days before Christmas. My mate Chris Thurrell, he's also got a podcast. He's just rode the Atlantic with a guy called Louis.
I think I've seen you share his stuff over there. Him and Liam.
Yeah, it done really, really well for Scotty's Little Heroes and
whatnot.
We were
in Barbados yesterday, weren't we?
Yeah, and he gave me a call. Lovely man, absolute legend. And then before that, when my hospital thing happened, Mitesh Badiani for the Smile Star Project, he managed to secure funding for me and my wife to go to India for 17 days last year.
Oh, brilliant.
On a humanitarian aid project where we'd done 3-4 days in hospitals and outreach projects providing dental and hygiene. And then we got to pretty much go across only a fraction of the subcontinent of India. And that place was absolutely mind-blowing. You consider that, without talking ill of my wife, because I won't, it's not about it. My wife left me because I was slightly out of control earlier this year, I admit to, and I started bleeding again, and I went inwards, and then I went to India, and within 3-4 days I'd stopped bleeding. And what it was is I wasn't following my own advice, I wasn't managing my stress, I was eating intermittently and it was all the wrong things, and I wasn't loving myself. So I felt like I went to India and I come back with this new lease of life and a second opportunity, and I thought, I can't squander this because... Light codes. Went to the Golden Temple, went to the Pakistan-Afghan border, Pakistan-Indian border, went to the Jaipur, the Purple Palace. Phenomenal, stayed at the Taj, like a 5-star hotel. Phenomenal, amazing experience, and I got to share that with my wife. Beyond what we did on a human level, it got me to, because I travelled a lot with private security, so I had a good idea of what the world was like, and then you kind of lose that, and that's the beauty of travelling, is you get to see life from another lens. And I say I've done 45 countries now, so I've got a good understanding.
Very blessed.
Very blessed, right? Very, very blessed. But India, so simple. They've got nothing, but they're happy. And I had the opportunity. We had a balcony when we were staying, and I'd be able to get up in the morning, do some sun gazing, do a bit of yoga on the balcony, really connect with Father Sky and Mother Earth. And I always find that when I share my journey to help people understand is in every aspect of my life now, I'm honouring something or some god, whether it's the Orion wind jacket, stars of Orion, or it's the Pantheon, the Godhead, or it's my Arcturus boots, Arcturus a star. Everything I do is intentionally mindful to stress that I've got like this rebirth, like it says in the Bible, isn't it? Is it? I don't know. Is it Matthew 6:22, or is it John 3:3? I think John 3:3 says, "Surely you will not see the throne of God until you're being born." 3:3 is an allegory, right? Because 3:3 is the amount of vertebrae in your brain, in your spine. Yeah. That's the tree, the trunk. The brain is a tree of life, the foliage. There's so much hidden. I've been reborn.
Yeah.
But I was erratic because, like we spoke, when you have this Kundalini rising, it is truly mind-blowing.
It's earth-shattering because it is shattering the old world that you lived in, and now we're living in the other world where we see all the possibilities. And we were on about this earlier, and it's the first time I said it to you because it was quite funny. Because you're trying to get everyone in there, and we both did. We're trying to get it as partners there, but you're doing it so erratically. You're just like a yappy dog.
Yeah,
you are. You're just noisy and like want to get rid.
Yeah, like, you put that dog down. Do you know what I mean? Like,
it's ill.
It's ill. You need to put, and this is it, right? So you imagine for me, like I said, I got sectioned, and then I was releasing at 12 days. It was sectioned for 28 days. I got a solicitor involved. I said I was going to go to tribunal. The doctor was really good. He said, look, I know you're not where you were. You need a grounding. Clearly there's something different about you, but you're fine. He released me. But again, I wanted to heal and help everyone. But actually, you got to stop and just heal yourself, right? And then the world will unfold for you. And that's what's happening. But again, because I got sectioned, all people see is, oh, he's sectioned, he's mad. Because that is what the mainstream narrative is. And my guides said this. They were like, the hardest battle you're going to face is the ones that love you the most are going to still think you're mad. And I don't mind that. That doesn't bother me anymore. But there's a slight part of me that goes, I want you to understand where I am. But I also know that not everyone down here on this soul's experience is destined to wake up. They have their individual life paths and they're doing what they're destined to do, consciously or subconsciously. But for the likes of us that have been blessed with awakening, we have an opportunity to build a tribe, a collective, and really reshape and rewrite the collective subconscious.
Well, its roots are spreading out so far now. My dad, we had an incident a couple of weeks ago, and he was just saying, I get upset with what people are saying about you, and I says, unfortunately, I love myself, I love who I am now, and I know what I'm bringing. I says, don't let them upset you.
Yeah.
And he's like, but it does, and I'm like, it's a really good indication that I'm doing something right.
Yeah.
It's a really good indication,
is,
and I know that you don't understand, but I says a ship can't go down unless it lets the water on, and I'm like, you're letting other people's comments come on your ship.
Bring your shit
Just
down.
know that I'm happy, and that's all you should. You don't try and safeguard me. Don't try and speak up for me. I'm speaking volumes in my actions because I'm embodying what I'm. Like, I've had a slip with certain stuff recently, and sometimes we're really good at giving advice and not taking it on ourselves.
Amen, brother.
But that's a slip hole for me, and that's where I've got to learn. But I know what's coming. I know what we're building just by having you on, and we're talking about certain people. You should speak to so and so, and because we can see the patterns of how we can help. Yeah. Whereas it's all not about I'm going to go get these bags in or get these drinking, and I'm going to self-soothe myself this weekend. Yeah. And let's do all the same again next week and forget about it. It's that rinse and repeat. It's going. Yeah. And what we're doing now is building something beautiful. It is coming forth, and it gives people another outlet to go, it's not weird. I actually enjoy hiking. I actually enjoy going out certain places, and
It's just finding that key. I say the keys to the universe, to that individual that you can resonate with them, where they go, "Yeah, you're mad, but actually, I want to do that with you," and or no, I like that, and then that's your in. If you're a lock and I'm the key, once I find the key that fits your lock,
Yeah.
together we're connected. And then once we're connected, like Jesus Christ said it, I think he said it to Peter in the Bible when he asked Peter to leave the shores of the fishing boat. Like, so feed a man a day, feed a man a day, give a man a fish, feed him for a day,
Yeah.
teach a man a fish, feed him for a lifetime, follow me, I'll make you a fisher of men. But the allegory to that is what he meant was, if you can raise your consciousness to such a higher level, it's not a man, the physical man, you're a fisherman of a soul, because you resonate. And that goes beyond the veil again. When you no, not with your eyes see, because we see 4 to 6% of the light spectrum.
Connection on a heart level.
Connecting on the heart chakra, right? And like Jesus Christ was a fisherman of souls. He walked around so selflessly with nothing but the clothes on his back, because he had all the keys to everyone's locks, because he knew, I am the way, the truth, and the light, or life. Life it is now in the Bible. But then I am is the creator, is who spoke us into existence. The way, follow me. The light, we're light bodies. There's 3 dimensions to the way he's speaking there.
Yeah.
But people will read it literally. And that's fine, because my dad loves it and he's got a great connection with God.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Oh, Sonny, you've turned into my trippy hippie son." And I'm like, yeah. And that's fine if that's how he perceives me and how I perceive. My dad's doing fine. I don't need to bring him into my world.
Yeah.
I have to accept his world. He's happy. But for the ones that want to come on board for the journey, let's talk.
Do you think there's a massive slip hole at the moment, though? I something that resonates with me is, we were taught, even like in most gospels, is said, don't ever worship false idols.
Oh.
And Jesus Christ has become, I'm not saying his teachings, but he said, don't follow me, you step into your own power. And people and God and Christianity have used him as this Jesus Christ, and hold him up, and he'd even call himself a false idol.
Yeah,
he's not that he's saying that he is the way and he can show the way,
no.
But he also said, you can be better than what I can do things. But people are so, but all I see in comment sections on Instagram or whatever it may be is anyone doing anything spiritual or anything like using breath work, and they're like, no, Jesus Christ is your saviour, and they're like, no, you're like, you are your own saviour. There's no one coming to save you.
Trigger warning.
But that
this is triggering for a lot of Christians, because I used to talk at church and I don't really go to church now, because I've had some hard conversations with, I'd like people to understand that till the Dead Sea Scrolls came about, the transitions from Hebrew, they've changed with the language, and so what you're getting isn't the truth in Hebrew, right? And the sooner you begin to realize that, the sooner you begin to understand, like I don't know if you said this already, Jesus wasn't Christianity. Christianity came about because of him, and we have to try to be open enough to begin to understand that actually the Roman Empire, did it ever cease to stop existing? Because actually, I don't know if it's 100 years or 1,000 years. I think it's 100 years. The Bible was released after, right? His alleged crucifixion, right? And so they cannibalized it. There's a lot that isn't in there. The Book of Enoch, right?
Yeah.
Listen to that. Watch it.
I have done
it. Mary Magdalene. There's plenty that took out, and the question you ask yourself is why? What is in there that they couldn't hide in plain sight? And so, when people jump on board and say Jesus Christ is your saviour, you have to go, yes, he is, but not necessarily in the way you're projecting your truth. My truth isn't your truth, and you haven't got to buy into my truth, but I know on a heart level, and Jesus spoke from the heart chakra. That's what he was referring to. Like you see it all the time. The crown behind his head was the sun, because Jesus Christ, his brother's son is Jesus Christ. He brings life, renewed life every day. There's so much to be interpreted in a multidimensional way. The sad truth is people just see it one-dimensionally. Yeah. And a lady I'm working with is a clairvoyant. She's wonderful. I won't tell her name through not wishing to get her involved. She said, why do I go to a priest to be closer to God? Like, because I am a divine spark, as are we all. So yes, it's good to go to church, to be together, and spend that camaraderie and that kinship and that community. But I think personally, the Bible has been used, like a lot of sacred texts, to control the collective narrative.
I see it as a division,
Yeah.
cutting you off and telling you that you. Like, I think indigenous people say it right. It's like you build temples to see God, and we go out in nature to talk to God.
Yeah.
Like there's no separation.
But where were the temples all built on? They were built on ley lines.
Yeah.
Paganism in the UK, right? Yeah. And so, yeah, Mother Nature is where you need to be. And they were very aware of when they come to our shores in, was it 1090 or was it 95 AD? I'm not sure. And there was a bartering, wasn't there? That we couldn't overpower them, the Roman Empire. So we submitted, and we had meetings, and we said, right, it's trigger warning, and a lot more people do nowadays, but Jesus Christ wasn't born on 25th December like you buy the presents consumeratively for. Astrologically, with the alignment of stars,
Horus were born and stuff. Yeah, it's all an allegory.
Yeah, and then even defunking Christianity, we go back to ancient Egypt. That's where it comes from, Christianity. It was just remasked, the Greeks, the Romans, and then back to Mesopotamia and the Sumerian tablets and the texts. And
well, they were saying it with Essenes as well. Essenes' teachings stopped after Christianity got hold of it. Because I forgot what they were found in Qumran, wasn't it? But I'm going to mess this up. There were Essenes and there were two other sects, weren't there?
There were, so
the other two sects.
You had Nazareth, didn't you? And
Yeah.
they had the Essenes, Nassenes, and there was another two.
Yeah.
They were like a compass around Nazareth.
And the Essenes were ones who tried to be purest at pure.
Yeah.
And they're the ones who got the teachings not put into none of their teachings actually got put into the Bibles, did they?
A great thing to watch, and I helped, and I don't say this lightly like I'm a big spud, I helped fund the Christspiracy, the ones that done Seaspiracy and whatnot. Two amazing American
I still need
chaps.
to watch that.
Yeah, on what the ocean.
Yeah, both of them. I still haven't
So
seen them.
Seaspiracy, yeah. So I think it was only like $29.99 I contributed, but then I got a pre-release of it, and I tried sending it to my father, and I shook his world then. I think when I said, like, one of the things they say in the Golden Temple was, if you look at the hills around Jerusalem, it was non-agricultural farmland. So therefore, before the great alleged flood of Noah, we were eating from the Garden of Eden, and we didn't eat meat. We didn't eat animals. We ate off Mother Earth. Then the Great Flood happened, and then we started worshipping false idols. And then the Great Temple of Jerusalem, if you go there, which I haven't been, but the documentary shows it, there's a massive channel leading out of the temple.
It's the blood.
And it was blood.
Blood from the lambs.
From the lambs, because the
1,500 lambs that do, or 15,000. It was. That's what he spoke about on it, and he went. That's why the Essenes had to get out. They went, how you're living is so far away from the law of one.
Yeah.
Why are you saying these are sacrifices? What God would ask for 15,000 of an animal that He's made for you not to eat? And he went, it's just ghastly. But this is where it's all been spewed down, and you look around and you look at companies that sell up off the products of suffering, and that's where it's got me in my alignment of, I've had slip-holes, but I know that that's not what I should be doing.
Yeah.
It's the foul smell we sort of talked about off air. It's, when I eat them kind of foods, I get a foul smell to me. And that's what it says. If everything's as within, so if you're putting suffering in, suffering will come out ghastly.
Yeah, and massively, the one thing, like, I do like fish, I will be honest. And I like my wife's cooking, and I've not had a great deal of that for a while, and I have now. And so I look in my mind's eye and I go, you know what? When I'm at work or whatever I'm doing, if I don't eat throughout the day, or I do eat hummus and pita or flatbreads, whatever it may be, if my wife, like the other day, she made a cottage pie. I've not had one of her cottage pies in about a year.
We had one on Sunday because I went. I'm just gonna delve a little bit back in.
Go on.
And just have a bit, and I did, and it was nice. It was nice, but I know where I'm gonna get to, and it's about enjoying the journey at least being present with the family and.
Exactly.
The rest of it, and be kinder to yourself.
And that's also something I'd say. We were talking about light and dark earlier, and you saying you want to get to the purest form of your art. But for me and my wife, like, we both always drunk a fair bit, right? That was our go-to, and then as younger years as drugs, and so that's our bond. And so when I started this journey, and I was like, everything gone. I am this guy, plants like that. It created a divide because we'd only ever not only ever known that connection, but it was a big part. But actually, what's happened now is I look back and I look forward, and I go, well, actually, it's okay to have a couple beers here and there, or a bottle of wine. And actually, it's, I see it as a sacrifice that on us both by actually bringing us together because we're doing it in control. And actually, it's a bond. We don't need that to bond. But I do think in society, we have been force-fed that you need alcohol, you need drugs to create that. And you don't. You just need unconditional love, good food, and good conversation. Yeah. But sometimes a little bit of alcohol or a little bit of that can really open up people.
I think it naturally as well, as you're progressing on this journey, things shave off when they need to shave off.
When they need to go.
Like, you sound like your awakening were pretty similar to mine, and it was so fast and car crash, like, happened so, like, Zoe didn't even know. She's like, I don't even know who you are anymore. And now I went, I don't even know who I am.
Yeah.
But I know that I've been playing a character that I'm not supposed to be. So it felt like I went from here to pure completely, and it has to merge in the middle a bit, and then start shaving it off. Yeah, bit by bit instead of all at once. It was kind of showing you where you can get.
Yeah. So this is where you could be, but actually you need to come back to here and calm yourself down, ground yourself, and like I say, shave it off gradually. Because, like you said earlier, you're just spouting off, like preaching, like on the corner, like a Pharisee, and it's no good because it's like white noise, isn't it?
Yeah.
People just switch off. But if you go right back and find who you used to be and say, that doesn't serve me no more, but I'm going to work towards that pure body that I was, or I achieved. And then because it's gradual and you're doing it under control, people then go,
And also you can embody it more.
Because
you've got that awareness too. You go, this, I feel better doing this.
Yeah.
I feel better doing that. And each year, some things you'll keep on going back to, but it all goes back to, there's only the ego that's in a rush. The soul isn't. The soul knows that this is eternal, you've got time to embody it all and reflect it out on everyone.
Yeah, beautiful. It's just beautiful. It is beautiful.
So where are you in your journey at the moment? Like, people go down to seasons. Where
am I on my journey? I feel, like I said earlier, when I've done that shamanic soul retrievals course, I feel like I signed an unwritten contract in the spirit realm or the star, whatever level of ascension I was at. And I feel that spirit guided me for a year. Maybe 12 months, 12, 30, 40 months. And I feel I've now come full circle and I understand so much, but so little still. But with the understanding I now have, I'm more composed. And that's allowed me to really understand that actually when I thought I could do it, a solo man mission, actually the only thing that makes me happy in this world is my wife and 3 children. And I actually pushed them quite far away. And I was quite rude and horrible by trying to heal them in my own way, but it wasn't a very nice way.
Yeah.
And my obligation has to be to heal them. But in doing that, that gives me more inner peace. And where I am on my journey as a shaman is I know I'll be in Peru. I know that's where I need to go. I need to go to Lake Titicaca, Machu Picchu. I need to go there to fulfill my destiny. I say need a desire, need a want. I know that's where I have to go to get that clarity. For people to then begin, because spiritually it's the unseen. No matter how much I waffle, it's still. I tried to go to college. I'm not. That wasn't me.
I couldn't do that.
So plant medicine. That's the next step. It's just being a good person every day now, and not letting my external stresses affect how I treat individuals, because everyone else has got their own internal, external stresses. And by being mindful enough to be present, to not act on the reptilian part of the brain, which is the amygdala, the fight or flight, and be emotionally responsive. If I can just be mindful all the time, I can be happy. I may not be inner happy all the time, but if I can give that happiness to someone, that makes me feel happy when I sit and reflect about what I've done on my day.
Yeah.
And
I just want to, just as you tapped on that, because I practice fasting every week, and I hadn't had it in a while, because this year I've said I'll do every day, every one day a week I will do, because I think there are a couple that I filled out. Some weeks I do more than one day. At the start of fasting, I was very triggered. Like, I get angry and I'd let it fly out. And I've managed to keep that under control for ages. But yesterday I did a fast and it was like very easily triggered. I wondered where that came from. I don't know if you've experienced the same thing. Just for anyone who was watching who's getting into fasting. Because I know my mum said that one of my uncles did it and said he just got really nasty through it. Not that he wanted to, but everything would trigger. Yeah. And I just don't know if it's... I didn't know if on a spiritual level, entities that have attached to you, your body's letting them go out, and it's.
I from my experience, I think it goes back to control. I think if you're getting triggered by a lot, I think you need to look inwards about how's that look for you. Why is it causing so much distress?
Yeah.
Look, someone else's actions is causing you to act on an emotional based response. Because ultimately, I think education is key. If you're just going to start fasting there's a couple books I just bought, but like Gut Health and whatnot, or Fasting to Save Your Life is on YouTube.
Yeah.
If you can educate yourself on the benefits on a molecular level,
Yeah.
I think that will give you greater control of the emotions you're feeling when stuff arises that causes you to be triggered. I think ultimately we have the power to respond or not. And let's be frank, I've spent my life being very reactive.
Yeah.
That I'm not here like to sit on my high horse now. If anyone wants to comment on this, they'll say Lethal, Dan, Cosmic, Flash. Like, I have been always super reactive. But how I stopped that is by picking up a book and understanding about myself, by going inwards. So ultimately I'd say education, pick up a book and see how the brain works to see why you're reacting that way.
Yeah. I've just bought a Buddhist book, and that way it's on anger, and it's about putting out the flame. And the first thing that we're on about is food. It's like the foods that you put in.
It is.
In you, and it's funny because I've said, I don't know, this light bulb moment's just gone off. There's me saying that I ate them foods the other week, the meat, and I'm taking up on them energies of suffering. It could be a correlation to that as well, because I said it hadn't come back, and I will plant this the most of the, and mainly fruit. And I'm just thinking I put them energies in last week, and them energies came up this week. So yeah, it is maybe for... I've answered my own question.
Yeah, do you know what? You've answered your question right back at me, and that's mirror work, right? Because I had that cottage pie on Wednesday, and then on Thursday I had a little bit of road rage.
Yeah.
Right. And it was funny, but it wasn't, because I put my indicator on, and I did get angry because he didn't let me in. Right. And then I sat there and I was pretty wild about it. And what I didn't do was I didn't stop. So you could argue that having that red meat, which I know isn't good for my stage 2 Crohn's and my body, is sat there, it's rotting, it's spewing, it's not good for me. Regardless of what it is, I then had the opportunity to cut alongside him on the outside lane, not on the roundabout of the traffic lights. And I said, "What's that all about, mate?" Like, quite high rated. And my friend said, "Cool, you've dropped like a vocal tone or two." And afterwards, and I was like, "What was that all about, mate?" And he was like, mate, honestly, I didn't see you. Like, I didn't see you. I was like, my indicator was on, bud. But I wasn't as reactive as I'd been ever before, but I was still a little bit reactive.
Just enough for you to notice.
And he went, "I would have let you in, mate." And I was like, "Sound. Have a good day." And then he fair play, he drove off quite quickly. And the other two lads were like, oh, there's Lethal, he's still in there. And yeah, he very much is. Not as extreme as I used to be. I've got some horrific stories, like, and not anything to be proud of how angry I used to get. It really isn't. But by acknowledging that and having that conversation now, you go, oh, maybe it was a food response, but now I'm aware that it might have been a food response.
Let's put them lenses on to see next time if I do have that kind of food, what kind of things are coming out.
Yeah,
because that again, it brings back that awareness. And
yeah,
not everyone's ready to bring that to the forefront. A lot of people have got different little journeys to go on, haven't they?
they have, and it was the famous. I think it was the Buddha. Also, someone will only see you to the depths of healing they've gone to themselves. And I think that's a beautiful statement. So I say this from a non-ego perspective. Imagine I am healed, because I know I am, but I have dark days still, like we all do. Imagine all the pain and suffering I see every day. And I'm not here to advocate, like, I'm Jesus Christ, but like, I feel like I've gone deep and dark, and I've sat with my demons, dark energies, and now, like yourself, see it in other people. And it's, again, having that control of going, you can't save everybody, only the people that want to help themselves.
And I think that's the beauty of it, your roots going down to hell. You can be able to relate to people. This is how we pull people out of these situations, because we've been there. And we could. That's where the compassion comes from. That no one's written off.
No.
That you're like, you are savable. It's you wanting to save your own mind. And it's by going through the fire.
You have got to go through the fire, and I think sadly you have got to snap out of not the world owes me something.
The victim mentality.
The victim mentality. And I was sat in that after Afghan and losing Ben on Christmas Eve. Like, we can go into that in a bit, but imagine you've been pre-programmed all your life to think that you could save someone's life because you're a Super Army soldier, you're a Royal Marine Commando, and then seeing your mate catch it up on Christmas Eve, and then having the opportunity to be on that stretcher and know that you're quite a fit and healthy lad, and then see that guy. I've done a poem about it, I'll share it with you off here, and seeing him pass away in a stretcher before me, it was deeply troubling, and I broke down crying, and I was an emotional wreck, and I was an emotional wreck for years and years and years and years, especially on Christmas Eve. I kind of lost my train of thought, but it's getting away. That very much was like, I'm not as good as I think I am at all. And then that made me question everything I ever felt. And so maybe that was a start when I first thought, actually, I'm not as good as I thought I am. I am just a human being. And we're all very limited. We are limitless, but we're only limitless by the power of the mind. And so I couldn't save his life. And so then what quickly happened, I think, was I went from being uber turbo, like, confident in myself. And my mates used to tell me, you're a dick when you joined the Marines, you changed. And you do, because they do break you down and build you back up. But then I switched on that. And then it became very much like, I am useless. And the power of words in the mind or spoken outward is very powerful. Say something enough internally, you may not externally believe it through consciously speaking it, but if that becomes a negative feedback loop, then
becomes you, doesn't it?
It becomes you. And then the world owes you everything, and the world sadly doesn't owe you anything. And
what's your take on marine life? And do you think, like, I'm so against wars? I don't think anyone says, oh, we want war. I mean, there is people who say it, but do you see, how do you look back on your time in the Marines now?
I feel very blessed to have had the opportunity. Because beyond what the political agenda stands for, at the root cause of it, the men I serve with and the women are legends, right? Because you're all there. And I do, on my heart, feel that everyone that I serve with joined for the greater good. We're not psychopaths that want to... There's a US Marine outside a bar in America said to me, because he didn't know I was a Marine, yeah, I kick in doors and shoot bad people in the face. Like, such an egotistical statement. I didn't join the corps to do that. I joined the corps. I didn't want to be second best to my brother-in-law, who's a Royal Marine also. But for like, ego statement there, right? But to me, like that's in a nutshell, like the ego driving me. Like my brother-in-law's a legend, but like I joined, and it was great, but it was also very humbling because you imagine all your life you lived in this village, this town, sleep even in Somerset, and you think you're two thumbs fresh, and then you get down to Lympstone, and you're all your head buzzed off, and there's 60 of you, and there's actually 60 alphas there that all think they're amazing, and regardless of how arduous training is, it shapes you, and it does give you mental robustness, and then you come out the other side, and it's for me, the lessons I learned in the Corps still transcend to this day. Have I had a blip of this PTSD? Yeah, massively. And I think that's the biggest point to be highlighted, that there just isn't enough available help for veterans. That is massively what the problem is. So when you see veterans, regardless of gender, kicking 10 bells of living hell out of each other downtown, or and another civilian, or drinking their body weight in beer, and they're out of control, they're thugs, they're this, they're that. No, they're hurting.
Yeah.
And you're pre-programmed in to not talk about it. I think it's better now. I think arguably it's a lot better now. There's a lot more infrastructure there. I see my world is a world without armed forces. I think it's a long way off, but I'd like to see a world without military intervention. But the biggest threat to life we've got is the big red button, isn't it? Conventional war as we know it, I don't feel there isn't much of a place. It's all gone very technical now, isn't it?
Do you think, and I don't know if I don't mean to trigger you or anything, but unknowingly, do you think karmatically, people who have got PTSD or ended up on the streets, the governments of the world know what they were getting you into, and movies show it on so many levels, but we think it's fiction, and when it comes about and veterans do go through this, it's a karmatic debt that they've taken on, or do you think that's just a grey area? I think about stuff like this all the time because unknowingly you did it for the greater good.
Yeah. So on that, it's gonna sound out there that, like, when I come back from Afghan, I had 9 hours one day sleeve and then 3 hours the other day, and I've later when transmitting or transmuting through the veil, it's been brought to my attention that pain, like all my tattoos mean something. If you look at them, I can explain them to you. But I think I was told that my pain was through the pain that was caused. And so if I elaborate on that, so if we understand that boots on a foreign soil for a political agenda that is probably far beyond what our brain can comprehend without going down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Like the story I use is an operation we were on, and we were getting in the middle of the night. It was a route lake effects. It was probably one of the most allegedly the most heavy ID'd roads in Afghanistan, and southern Afghanistan at the time. One of our vehicles, the Foden, had got down in a ditch, had it self-righted, and we were patrolling in the dead of the night when we got contacted from a compound. It was like something out of Star Wars. For anyone that's ever watched this, you'll know what it's like. It's beautifully tragic, I think, is the way, because it's everything you ever trained for, and then it happens. And we then had to just return fire, wet fire down, take the compound. In taking the compound, the Taliban are no longer there. We clear the compounds room by room. I won't go into the strategics of it. I lost my footing when I went in, the second man in the room. I had the LMG, safety on, obviously, then safety goes off, and then I look down, I've lost my footing, head torch on. What I'm looking down at and they're looking up at is women and children. You do your job because that is your job role. But I think with age comes wisdom, comes understanding, comes enlightenment. we bought a house, me and my wife, we had 3 children. You start to see life through another person's perspective. I'm not saying all Taliban are bad or they're all good, but I think we have to just begin to understand that actually the reasons behind why said individual picked up arms. And so I say, take yourself out of your body and put yourself into their body. How would I react if someone kicked down my door in the dead of the night and stood all over my wife and kids, children, with a weapon in their hands? And I think if you are, and I don't say this to trigger anyone, if you are an alpha, if you're a male or a female, I'm telling you right now, I'd pick up arms. Because if you had threatened my wife and children, some foreign man in the land, you'd be a spaceman, really, because people in Afghanistan have never seen that.
Survival instinct.
It's survival. You'd pick up arms. So I always use this story as an example, because a lot of the other stories aren't that nice, but one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. And it is a propaganda that both sides are fed that leads to the clash. But actually, on a human level, it's genocide. That's it, pure and simple, because we're not made to kill each other. Yes, we're always going to... What controls us is our low-lying emotions. It's greed, isn't it? And ours, on a soldier front or a marine level, isn't greed, but it's the powers above us that are driven by greed that send us there.
They're programming. Like you say, they broke you down to build you back up.
Yeah, and the programming was great. You know, I can't say it wasn't, but actually, and it's not the Marines. You know, it's not the military. It's the people that control the military, right? It's not the government. It's the powers beyond.
Puppeteers,
they are merely puppets, right? People always slate Keir Starmer, Boris Johnson, blinking Gordon Brown, Tony Blair, whoever those puppets are. They are but puppets. We have to be the critical thinker and understand that all those people went to the same schools. And although they might project different virtues and have ways of getting your vote, their core beliefs are still the same.
Left wing, right wing, it's the same bird.
It's the same bird.
And it's heading for the same direction. But I think now that the awareness is coming out with everyone, it's all going to dissolve, is that? And you can only fall for them tricks if you're not willing to have that awareness.
Yeah, I do think we are going to move into the age of Aquarius and the 5D ascension. I do truly believe that. I think it's going to be a bumpy ride. I think...
It's going to be bump.
You know, you look at our awakenings and every other person you've had on this, like that lady, I forget her name, she's like, you say, got any advice for anyone on their awakening? She's like, hold on. And it is hold on, because it is like, whoa. It is a white knuckle ride, but I promise you.
It's more exciting though, isn't it?
Honestly, like, look at Dean. You had Dean on here, haven't you?
I need to redo Dean's.
Yeah.
Such a colourful character as well.
Yeah, Dean's a legend. Like, he's a very articulate guy, BKB boxer, bare knuckle boxer. I rocked up at the summer solstice or spring equinox in Glastonbury with my wife freshly painted nails on, right?
That's a bit thrilling, isn't it?
Yeah. Dean didn't know me from Eve Adam, and it was dark, right? And we're in the apple orchard behind
Not when you have your white fingernails.
Yeah, and he come over quite alpha-ish, and he was like, what are you doing with nails on? And I chirped up to him, you know, and I was, I'm not scared. I stepped into my alpha, he stepped into his alpha, and he raised a very valid point. Why have you got nail varnish on? But at that time, I was trying to define getting comfortable being uncomfortable. I enjoyed people asking me questions.
Peacocking.
Yeah, because it got me a chance to not only speak about my wife being a nail technician, but being a Cosmic Commando, and about actually, you're pre-programmed into saying that nail varnish is for women. But you wouldn't say that to, I don't know, Nirvana, Kurt Cobain, right? I don't know if you want it, but the rockers, they wear black. So I had like blue with stars, right? It's not very masculine, granted. Do you know, I don't wear nail varnish anymore. That was definitely a phase of spirituality.
Just on your toes now.
Yeah, bright red. But again, very much a life lesson there, because what quickly became apparent was the energy was not right. I wasn't backing down. He wasn't backing down. We would have gone at it, I'm sure. And so I quite quickly packed up my tent and thought, this is not me no more. I'm not that alpha where I'm going to go and like knock 10 bells out. And thankfully I didn't, because 2 days later, I find out his name, check out his profile. And I'm not scared of anyone. Let's put that. But actually, I probably would have got owned. Do you know what I mean?
I wouldn't have watched him box. He knows what he's doing.
Exactly. And I've never boxed properly in a day in my life, right? So you can imagine it, can't you? Just because my ego and my alpha went, but on my journey, I've met people like Dean. I've met Mikkel and Leanne, the Lemurian Star Child oracles. I've met Oracle of Roses at Avery. I've met so many good souls.
The Soul Tribe.
The Soul Tribe. And this is what happened for me. I was calling everyone angel. And that's slightly unnerving for your wife. And being over familiar with male and female sexes. But it was just unconditional love. There was no hidden agendas there. And my social media footprint, I hope, projected that by tagging myself everywhere with people. So they saw everything was transparent. But ultimately, what we have to go back to is our actions will create a reaction, good or bad. And sadly, what I couldn't see were the reactions I was getting were bad. And through the lack of communication, it was separating me and my wife apart.
Yeah.
But again, I wouldn't change it for the world. I don't say that horribly because I'm trying to rebuild. Where it goes, who knows, right? But ultimately, it will all work out. Thank you for saying that. It's beautiful. Thank you. But ultimately, I was being guided, right? And you know this, and anyone that's awake or awakening, there's no stopping it.
No.
There is.
It's a burning fire within that knows it's faith. It's faith, and you don't know where the hell it's going to take you.
Yeah, you don't.
And we use the word hell. I don't want to tell me that, but it is. It's a deep knowing that you've got to go on this journey, and we've mirrored similar paths. Like me and Zoe, we did split up for a time before. And it were necessary.
Yeah.
And people were like, you shouldn't be getting back together. I'm like, you don't know. We both separated, but we went with different people. And it were enough of a barometer to know that wasn't right.
It wasn't right.
And I needed to change in order to be, I need to resonate at a certain level of frequency to meet her where she's at.
Yeah.
And then I've raised up a bit more and she's raising and you're both challenging each other.
And that's all it is.
But this big con that we've been sold on social media is you're supposed to meet this boss bitch and boss man that's how we got it all figured out. It's not. It's about figuring it out together.
100%.
What a bit fun in it if you were both had it all figured out at top.
Yeah, it would be amazing. But everyone puts Jesus Christ on a pedestal, but no one talks about Mary Magdalene. She's been slandered, right? And I say this all the time. Behind every strong man is a stronger woman, and that's what the Bible doesn't teach. I got the Last Supper across my back. Mary Magdalene is that way. Jesus Christ is that way, and it forms the chalice and the phallus, which makes up the Star of David, right? Masculine and feminine. It takes two to create life.
Holy
Trinity, man. You know, and so then people will then pass judgment on what they've seen on our journeys and give their judgments. But we have to begin to understand that their advice comes from the heart.
Yeah.
But it also, their advice is shaped by their experience. Yeah. And if they've not healed themselves and dealt with their demons or their low energy, the advice they're going to be given is from a biased perspective, from an unhealed human. Yeah. And we've all got levels of healing to keep going on. Yeah. I don't think healing ever stops. I think it just becomes to a point where, like we said earlier, you acknowledge that you're healed to a point where you can help.
Yeah.
And when you get to that point, like you and I are now, you slow and you calm and you sit, and I say you rest in the rest in the grace of Jesus Christ and Mary Magdalene, that duality, and you know what's important and what's right.
What do you, like for me as well? Deep down, I have said to Zoe, I know she's far more powerful than what I am.
Yeah, 100%.
And I'm through my awareness, I'm showing her where she needs to step into her own. She plays second player to herself a lot of time, not stands up for things that she should say. She's starting to, and I think she always thinks it's going to cause conflict. And I'm like, to cause conflict is only if you're coming with headstrong and you're like, I see it this way. And I'm like, no, if you tell people if there's a way that you've been treated that you don't accept, tell them from a loving nature, and it dissolves that. Yeah. And that's what it's starting to do. What I would be interested in, I said it to Dan as well, I'd love for your wife, Zoe, I want to do another feature podcast with
yeah.
asking them what it's like for someone who's going through a spiritual awakening,
Get
their partner, because there's a lot of people that are going through spiritual awakenings or going to be shortly, and they're splitting up like you have, and like we could have done.
Yeah.
And if it gives that well-rounded view of it's okay for this to be happening, it's not all falling apart, even though it looks like it's falling apart, it's going to rebuild better on better foundations.
Yeah.
I want to have that as a segment.
And I think that's...
If she'd be willing to do so, and it's like in due time.
I think it's all about nurturing that, because my wife she always says she isn't an extrovert. I'm the extrovert, she's the introvert. But yeah, do you know what? My wife probably had this triggering awakening way before me, right? And we shared this, and she was like, you weren't there when I was having it. And do you know why? Because I was massively asleep. And so I think her awakening stumbled, and now I've awoken. I have an obligation to nurture her awakening, and so she doesn't make the same car, which I know she won't, the same car crash awakening I had.
It'd be more subtle.
It'd be
more nurturing.
Yeah, more nurturing. It's a divine feminine. Us blokes are like hammers, aren't we? We're just boom, we're there.
And this is where I was speaking to our kid a bit ago, because I was saying, like, it's not old-fashioned, but the man is supposed to be the leader. Not saying he has all the answers. I'm not saying all the answers, but try and pave the way a little bit.
But is he though? That's the ultimate question to ask.
No, but I mean, like, through this awakening of like going through, showing like where we're going now. That's what I'm saying, and I'm saying Zoe like is brilliant at nurturing it all, and then what I'm doing now through this podcast, she's starting to like doing the editing. She's starting to do little bits, because I says, what I'm doing is I'm leading the way, but you haven't found your way, but you're going to find it off of the back of this. Yeah. I'm not saying you've got to do this, you've got to do that. She's naturally going, I'd like to do that. And she'll find her own career path or her own path in doing what she's doing.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm not saying like the man at the head of the table and all that, because I know that's going to trigger a lot of women. I'm not saying that. Women have been taught as well, like, and feminism, be a boss bitch and all that, and it's not working out. I think it's in Holy Communion that we work as a team together, and not this individuality.
I do think sex has been put down so cheaply that men and women, but you see it on OnlyFans, women are making coin, and do you know what? Kudos to you, because you know what, you're using your power to support yourself.
They just don't realise what they're selling. That's the problem.
That's the problem.
They think it's because they don't understand the realm. Like, you hear about cords and like, see, even the semen out of one partner can stay in the brain for 10 years. It's mad, yeah.
I know he's in their chalice for up to 7 weeks.
10 years in the brain.
10 years in the brain.
So you think of these women, there's a certain one, I wouldn't know her name, she's going through like 100 blokes. She's down.
That woman, wasn't it?
Yeah,
she went through,
and I don't want to give her any more airtime on that, but if you can imagine what that, she'll end up doing some stupid there's
karma, isn't there? And obviously, without sounding like I know what I'm talking about, that it's sacred union, like you just said, right? Like, I know I don't need or want anyone other than my wife. She is my soulmate, my best mate, my partner in crime, my Bonnie and Clyde. And when you share something so special, if you've never had that, and a lot of these young children coming up have not had the relationship that you and I have had with our partners, they don't know what they're missing because they've never had it. So they're going to the alternative that's being forced down their throat. And so I heard it, me and my wife talking about the other day, about body count.
But I think it's great that that's happening, because I think it's turning. I think this is turning where people are going to not... I've seen the other side of the coin where women are like, that's disgusting.
Yeah.
And it's starting to really bring morals back to it, because we're going to now see the people that have been having high body counts and going through this traumatic...
And we have to be there to support them.
And they're going to be putting it onto platforms. They're going to disintegrate in front of people's eyes, and people are going to go, oh, they have it wrong. Yeah. And it's... Again, that polarity of it all.
And we just have to be there to support them, don't we? Yeah. You know, because we can't pass judgment on the stuff they don't know.
No.
Because if they don't know, how are they supposed to know no different?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we just go when it happens, if it happens, or you know anyone that goes through that through the exposure of what they've been doing, instead of doing what everyone
We
been.
can only do in us what's in us power. Like I've got a son and I've got a daughter, and we can only teach the sons to be good partners.
It's beautiful, by the way.
Yeah, and
Yes.
that whole then that teaches also his daughters how to be respected. It's like
100%.
Ali says when he were on about it with his daughter. It's like, don't wear less clothes. Like all the things of beauty take time. Like diamonds are further down in the dirt.
Yeah.
Like shells. Like everything's covered up. Don't uncover for something.
Pressure, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like diamonds are formed out of pressure, you know. Like and yeah, and I said this to my wife a lot. Like I think we as a males and with pornography being so readily available, like you can see the flesh so instantly, but the beauty's in not knowing, right? The beauty is her being dressed up and in heels, little bit of makeup, looking divine, right? And your mind's eye going, wow, I know what that looks like, but actually you're dressed beautiful. Yeah. And instead of being that alpha ego, which I've been for years, not though appreciating men looking at my wife, that triggering me, I'm like, no, like by all means look, but again, it's that you leave with me, and that's special. And it's the alpha in you that wants to create a fight and prove your mass. And I'm not saying every now and again stepping up and sticking up for your wife in situations that need to do so, but she's strong enough in her own right. You know, they're powerful. They are powerful. Women are the life bearers of this planet, right?
So I think we're gonna wrap it up.
Yes.
But what it would be our final message for anyone that's maybe gone through what you're going through, or where our strength lies and where to look?
So I'd say slow is smooth, and smooth is fast, right? Get comfortable, being uncomfortable. Push the limits of what you know to be true, and show gratitude and unconditional love. And if you struggle with any of those, drop you or me a message, and if I can help you on your journey, I'd love to, you know, because I'm not degree smart, I'm soul life experience smart, and it resonates differently with other people.
I think that's worth so much more though. You've experienced it, you've lived it, and you can share it.
Yeah,
You're not talking on books, are you, really? You're just talking on experiences.
Yeah. We're just united we stand, divided we fall, as it says in the core. United we stand, divided we fall. We're stronger together than we are apart.
It's coming together, brother.
Yeah, brother.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. God bless you, my brother.